I want to present today a bit what we do at the European Fashion Heritage Association, and then I will dig into the topic of cultural appropriation. So how heritage can be, how heritage should be shared, but also this sharing sometimes brings issues, ethical issues. So EFHA is a non-profit association established in 2014 in order to bring together and engage fashion institutions, both GLAMs, so galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, and creative industries in the valorization and exploitation of fashion heritage online. We celebrate this year our 10th anniversary. The main goal of the association, our value proposition, is to support fashion GLAMs and brands in exploiting their cultural heritage assets by opening them up and connecting them with new audiences. Our main activity is essentially based on the aggregation, enrichment, and online curation and promotion of digital fashion content, creating an open access point for fashion heritage, targeting an audience of both specialists and non-specialists. We also raise awareness on best practices on digitization, metadata, digital curation, use of social media, and we develop new business models, and we test and develop, let's say, new business models for the exploitation of digital fashion heritage material. We are active members of European networks like the European Heritage Alliance and the new European Bauhaus. And we act as a fashion and textile aggregator, thematic aggregator for Europeana, which is the portal for cultural heritage, a flagship initiative of the European Commission. And we are part of the consortium running also the data space for cultural heritage. We have more than 30 supporting members coming from 15 European countries, more than 50 data partners that provide digital content to our platform. I will not list them one by one. You can recognize some of their logos here. We put together big national museums like V&A and the Rijksmuseums, but also smaller ones like Momo in Antwerp or the Museo del Tessuto in Prato, for example, but also brand archives like the one of Missoni and Ferragamo. All these institutions helped us bringing together one of the largest digital fashion archives in the world with more than 1 million digital items, all freely accessible online. These high-quality fashion digital objects range from historical costumes, prints, illustrations like the ones you see here from V&A and Les Arts Décoratifs, sketches, accessories, advertising campaigns, catwalk photos of the fashion show from the 80s, 90s, historical pieces, but also, but also pieces of contemporary and avant-garde fashion. So now we go to the real and more interesting, I think, from my perspective, topic. So at EFHA, we advocate for open access, and we believe that openness in the digital age is key to fostering democratic societies by providing, of course, universal access to knowledge and culture, leading to a more equitable world in theory. And I think there are successful examples of this, like Wikipedia and open access publishing. But lately, the digital landscape has shifted. The early web's openness has given way to a few dominant platforms, concentrating digital power and altering the digital ecosystem dynamics. Nowadays, cultural sharing often occurs within these commercial platforms like Instagram, X, or TikTok, with open licensing becoming less effective, becoming just a sort of ideological flag. This situation has created what has been called the paradox of open, where the principle of openness can both challenge and at the same time support this power concentration, underscoring existing power imbalances. Moreover, reuse freedoms associated with public domain materials and fostered through the digitalization can create tension when it comes to indigenous cultural heritage. You can replace indigenous with local communities. Is the same thing. That's why the provocative question here is sharing always caring. That was also the title of a conference we held in 2020 at EFHA in collaboration with Creative Commons. I will share the links of the recordings of this conference at the end of my presentation if you're interested in looking into those. Copyright legislation often fails to provide protection to traditional cultural expressions of local communities and doesn't fully recognize or represent their cultural values. Consequently, numerous aspects of indigenous heritage and traditional cultural expression fall outside the scope of copyright protection, which technically categorize them as free to reuse without any restriction. However, when we view it through the lens of cultural rights and ethical considerations, the access to and utilization of this expression may or should, in fact, be restricted. Here I have some example of this phenomenon. There are many out there, actually, of what we can call cultural appropriation. On the right side, you see an image from a collection of 2015 from the UK label KTZ. And on the left side, you can see an archival image from 1902 of an Inuit shaman wearing a parka. I mean, the images speaks from themselves. I don't have to convince you about the similarities. Needless to say that KTZ ignored to credit the source and didn't try to contact the community or ask for permission. Here we have another example. On the right, an image from the research collection of 2018 from the designer Tory Burch. And on the left, an image of a Romanian coat from the early 20th century from the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Also in this case, no mention of the source nor engagement with the community. I think on the contrary, Tory Burch staff on the website, they were mentioning this garment as inspired to African prints, so totally a disconnected kind of reference. Fortunately, of course, there are also positive examples of collaboration between brands and indigenous communities and local communities. I don't have the time now to go through them. But what I wanted to stress is that cultural institutions, because I'm looking at the problem from the perspective of cultural institution, I think after me, Daphne will probably examine more the industry side, so what brands and designers should do. But in our view, cultural institutions have a mission to provide access to culture, access to knowledge, and they have also a mission to preserve cultural materials in the public interest. So it's a very noble mission and important mission. But they hold a critical role in actively upholding the cultural interests and values of local communities also. By making decisions that are considerate and respectful, cultural institutions have the opportunity to promote the ethical management of cultural heritage material. This approach extends beyond simply adhering to standard copyright laws or establishing whether a work is or not in the public domain. In their operation, particularly concerning digitization, access, and reuse of indigenous cultural heritage, GLAMs, so archives and museums and libraries, should prioritize the rights and interests of local communities and indigenous people. So sharing is actually caring if GLAMs will recognize and affirm the interest that local communities have in their cultural and intellectual property, existing both inside and outside conventional copyright law, form authentic and meaningful relationship with source communities, understanding customary law and protocols, and determining community needs and wishes with regard to their cultural heritage, and actively respect community decisions regarding digitization, access, and use, giving this community full agency over how their cultural material is treated. In summary, genuine openness involves more than just mere release of resources online. It's not that you just put things open in the public domain, and you think that things will go for themselves. It's about managing these resources thoughtfully to maximize public benefit and safeguard fundamental rights, striking a careful balance between the openness of resources and the protection of the associated cultural rights. This is the QR code of our Vimeo channel. You can access all the presentation of this conference, which will explain things much better than how I did today, and not in 10 minutes, but in a few hours. And yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.